The story begins in 1943 in the Soviet Union. 8 months after the Battle of Stalingrad, the German army is retreating. All the soldiers are pulling back, but Lieutenant Philip and his tank crew stay behind to stop the enemy from crossing the bridge. The bridge will explode in a few minutes, but Philip holds the enemy off as long as possible. Only 5 minutes remain before the bridge blows. It's 600 meters long. Philip orders his crew to retreat. They start crossing as the enemy fires at them, but they fight back and keep the tank moving. Enemy planes attack from above. The tank catches fire, and flames start coming inside, but they don't stop. They keep going. Then, Philip sees a deer on the bridge. They barely make it out alive. Philip gets a new mission called Mission Labyrinth. He travels through the war zone to reach his team. They fix the tank, and it's ready to go again. Philip tells them their leave is canceled. They have to leave today and head back east across the Sel River into no man's land. Their mission is to find Colonel von Hardenberg and bring him back. They thought he was dead, but he's alive. They're going alone because this is top secret. He's believed to be hiding in a bunker complex east of Noviar. Philip orders them to get the tank ready. They prepare to move out. Along the way, they talk about von Hardenberg. He stayed with the 6th Army at Stalingrad when everyone else left. He survived, but lost a hand. He was trapped in rubble and had to cut off his own hand to get free. Some think he might be a Russian spy now. He survived by hiding, and when he returned, the army sent him back to war. Philip explains that von was working on a secret withdrawal plan. He has important army data that can't fall into enemy hands. That's why they need to rescue him. They travel for hours. Night falls, so they drive the tank into the forest to rest. They set up camp. Philip tells Michelle they'll take the first watch together. Michelle says his girlfriend told him there are ghosts in these woods. The souls of dead people wander here. Hamill teases Michelle for believing her. They talk a bit more. Then Philip goes on watch. Philip tells Michelle to ignore Hamill's teasing. Hamill lost his 15-year-old son in the war. Maybe teasing is just his way of showing he cares about Michelle. The next morning, they move out. They hear a Latin mass on the radio, which is strange because people here are Orthodox. They turn off the radio. Soon, they reach tank barriers. Michelle asks who built them. Philip says their army force captured enemy soldiers to build them. The ones too weak to work were killed and left there. They drive the tank through a gap in the barrier and keep going. They reach an open field. Philip sees a danger sign on the ground and stops the tank immediately. There are landmines here. Philip, Michelle, and Kylan get out to look for mines. Philip searches around the tank and finds a mine right in front of the tracks. He calls Michelle over for help disarming it. Christian spots a tank in the distance. Philip tells him to watch it. Philip can't find any wires on the mine, so he tells Michelle they'll have to lift it. When they lift it, Michelle sees a grenade underneath. He quickly puts his hand down to hold it in place. It's a trap within a trap. Now Michelle is stuck there. Philip tells him to stay still. He promises to get him out. The distant tank has moved away. Philip tells the rest of the crew that the tank is more important. He orders them to back it up. They reverse the tank. Philip grabs a rope, goes to Michelle, and ties it around the mine. He tells Michelle to slowly pull his hand out. Michelle carefully removes his hand. The mine doesn't explode. They all move behind the tank. Philip gives Michelle the rope and tells him what to do. Michelle pulls the rope. The mine explodes, setting off all the other mines around it. They get back in the tank and continue forward. Philip thinks about his family, but a dark memory haunts him. Suddenly, a heavy tank attacks them. One hit could destroy them. They use smoke grenades to escape, but 3 more tanks are coming from the side. They're trapped. They can either turn back or fight. On the other side is the river. Philip gets an idea. He tells Hamill to drive toward the river. They reach the river. Philip orders everyone to dismount. Philip tells his team to prepare the Tiger tank for a dive. The tank has taken several hits. There's a risk they'll sink in the water. Philip says they have no other option. They prepare it for a dive. They start crossing the river. The tank fully submerges underwater. Philip tells Hamill to stop the tank. The engine is too loud. The enemies can see their exhaust. Philip orders him to shut off the engine. Hamill refuses. If the engine doesn't restart, they'll all drown. Philip gives the order. Hamill shuts off the engine. They stay submerged underwater. The tank has no leaks. It's holding up pretty good. They hear the enemy tanks above. The tanks pass by. Philip decides they'll stay submerged to be on the safer side. After some time, water suddenly starts leaking into the tank. They decide to surface. Hamill tries to start the engine, but it won't turn on. After a few more tries, the engine finally starts. They move forward. They finally emerge on the other side of the river. Philip orders the engine off. They all get out and breathe in relief. Philip tells them to prepare the tank for land. Hamill says they only have enough fuel for 20 kilometers. They ready the tank and head out again on their mission. Night has fallen. They're traveling. Philip remembers the old days. Von Hardenberg was his old friend, but something happened between them. He doesn't talk about it. Philip gives them all pervitin. He says they need to travel all night. Everyone takes the pervitin except the radio operator. Philip sees something. He tells them to stop the tank and shut off the engine. He looks and says those are their own soldiers. He orders the engine on and tells them to move forward. They reach the spot. Philip orders his team to shut off the engine and dismount. They go with Philip to the commanding officer. Soldiers are dragging people everywhere. Fires burn all around. They meet Senior Assault Unit Leader Krebs. Philip requests fuel and supplies. Krebs asks what they're doing here. Philip says they're on a secret mission. Soldiers are herding all the boys and women into a house. Philip says he was told there would be no other troops here. Leader Krebs says this is their secret mission. All local villagers need to be cleansed of partisan supporters. They're locking them all in one place and setting it on fire. This saves their ammunition. They lock the last remaining people inside and set the house on fire. Everyone starts burning alive. They all watch the fire. Leader Krebs says he knows they remember this fire. They all remember the day they were on the bridge about to burn in the flames. Krebs says their fuel and supplies have arrived. Philip says they're leaving. They'll spend the night in the tank. He tells them to get the fuel and supplies. They leave and eat in the tank. Philip doesn't eat anything. He doesn't drink either. They talk. Weller says he used to be a winemaker. Kilg was a Latin teacher. Hamill was a train driver. Kilg says he thinks all this war and these orders are useless. Philip says orders are what make humans civilized. Hamill stops them both. He says there will be no politics in his panzer. The four of them cheer. Philip gets out of the tank. Weller comes outside to Philip. He says he wishes he could forget who he was before. He can never be that person again, especially not after what happened here. Philip says they'll always be that way. They just followed the orders they were given. Weller says when this is all over, Philip should come to Austria to see his winemaking. Philip says he definitely will. Next day, they head out toward their destination. They're about to reach. They see a destroyed house. Philip tells them all to stay alert and move slowly toward the building. He suspects it's a trap. Kilji loads his gun. They load the cannon too. As soon as they approach the building, a heavy cannon fires from inside. Philip immediately orders them to reverse and create a safe distance. They fire at the house from a safe distance, but nothing happens to the cannon. It turns out this is an Su-100, a heavy-duty tank. Just one hit from it could destroy them. They start firing bullets at it. Philip tells them to move. They fire the cannon, but the tank's armor is too strong. Philip tells them to go back and that they'll take it from the side. Their tank's exhaust gets damaged. They use smoke grenades and retreat. One hit lands directly and strikes near Kilg. They're all shaken. That tank is too heavy and not agile. Philip orders them to move forward and aim the cannon at the tank. They move forward, stop, and fire bullets while waiting for the right moment. The tank moves forward and falls into a hole created by the blast. Philip orders them to fire. They destroy the tank, but Kilg is injured. A splinter from the direct hit tore through him. He doesn't have much time left. He says he wants to die outside in the open air. They take him outside the tank. Kilg asks Philip if his issue with Vaughn is personal. He's dying. Kilg tells Philip to write a letter to Lucia and the girls. He says he still remembers the summer of '39 when all this hadn't started yet, and he loved teaching. Kilg dies. They bury Kilg and make a grave for him. After grieving for some time, Philip says they need to fix the tank. The tank's exhaust is blown out. Michelle goes to the enemy tank, sees something, and calls everyone over. All the enemy soldiers have turned into skeletons. Dead bodies don't burn this fast. Seeing this, Weller says that's enough. They should turn back and say they didn't find von Hardenberg. It's not normal here. Philip says only 20 kilometers are left. Hamill says the exhaust is broken. Philip tells him to fix it with parts from the SU. Hamill says the tank can only go another 30 kilometers. Philip says there will be supplies at the bunker. Weller tells Philip if Vaughn turns out to be a spy, he'll shoot him himself. Philip tells them to fix the tank. Philip looks at the bodies. Memories from the past come back to him. They fix the tank enough to work and move forward. Philip tells Michelle to turn on the radio. Michelle hears a man speaking in Latin on the radio. He plays it for everyone. Philip tells him to turn it off. Weller asks Philip how long they'll keep driving. Philip says until they find von Hardenberg and bring him home. Weller says there's no home anymore. The army just keeps retreating. Weller asks why von Hardenberg matters so much. Maybe he'll give information. Or maybe he already did and he's a spy like Kilg said. Or maybe this is personal between Philip and Von. If it's personal, why drag the rest of them into it? Philip says if the Russians capture Von first, they'll come this far. Weller says the Russians are already here. They're heading toward their death. Weller says he thinks Philip is taking unnecessary risks. He's been compromised. He votes to release Philip from command. Philip says, okay. He asks the others to vote too. Michelle votes in support of Philip. Hamill also votes for Philip. He says they've taken all risks together. He can't betray his commander. Philip tells Weller he won't report this. Philip looks at the map, but his compass doesn't work. His watch stopped at 12 o'clock since the bridge blast. On the way, it starts raining. Philip keeps remembering a burnt building. The rain stops. They reach a spot. Philip orders them to stop. He tells the team to dismount and bring their weapons. He saw footprints. They go outside and look at the footprints. German soldiers made them. They follow the path. They find a wire grenade trap along the way. This one's German too. They cross it and move forward. They find decomposed bodies of paratroopers. Philip says they must have been sent on the mission before them. They failed. They find the bunker and go inside. Inside, some soldiers are partying. Philip tells them he came to rescue von Hardenberg. A soldier says he knows. He tells only Philip to follow him. On the way, Philip remembers the day they had to retreat from Napier. He received a telegram. The soldier takes Philip halfway. He shows him the rest of the path and leaves. Philip reaches his friend Vaughn. He's shocked to see his friend is still alive. Vaughn says he was waiting for him. Philip says he came to get him. They should leave. Vaughn starts laughing loudly. He says, isn't it strange they sent him in that small tank to get him? He says, what if he refuses to come? Vaughn knows Philip will force him to leave to complete his orders. Vaughn asks Philip to eat with him. Sitting there, Vaughn asks Philip what they did in Stalingrad. The memory that keeps haunting Philip is from Stalingrad. Russian forces took shelter there along with women and children. They had to set fire to the entire shelter. Vaughn was hesitating to do it, but Philip just told him to follow orders. Vaughn follows the order. Philip fires the tank and burns everyone alive. Philip says it wasn't their decision. They were given orders. All the food lying there starts rotting. Vaughn says it's because of you. We are here. We are all here because of you. Philip says he came to complete his operation. Colonel Richter sent him here. Vaughn asks did he ever really exist. Vaughn says there were signals all along, like his watch stopped. The compass didn't work, and many more. Vaughn says this is all happening in your mind. Vaughn is telling Philip to return to the bridge. He asks why Philip delayed giving the retreat order. You never do that. Philip remembers a telegram he received earlier. It said his wife and child died. They burned to death in a shelter just like Philip killed those women and children. Vaughn says we reap what we sow. Philip asks where are we? He hears women and children screaming from the fire ahead. Vaughn says your journey ends here. Mine ended long ago. Vaughn died a long time ago. Vaughn takes Philip toward the fire. Philip snaps back to reality. He's still on the bridge. All of this was happening in his mind. Philip and his team died on this bridge. That's how this story ends.